Welcome, everyone. Happy Saturday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Saturday, December 7th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first two cards in our 5-card spread? First two cards we are starting our day off with today. Oh, we've got our 5 of Pentacles in its upright in combination with our Judgment card in its reversal. You know, I got to stress today, a lot of abandonment wounds coming to the surface. I'm going to just say it right now, whenever we see these cards, you know, but I have to stress, this is more of that same retrograde message, right? And this is why I was also telling you right now, making sure that like you're navigating emotionality from a place that feels like it is integral as opposed to egoic, right? And how can you usually tell if an emotion was coming from the egoic self or it was coming from the higher self? The differentiation point that you can often tell is by observing how you feel about it as you move forward in time, right? Because when we have an emotionality that requires us to go into some kind of like adjustment point, right? That moment that we feel something and go, oh, I wish I didn't say that. I wish I didn't do that. That is usually that modality that we recognize the emotion is from the egoic self. When we say to ourselves, I wish I didn't have to do that. I wish I didn't have to say that. That necessary note is usually the articulation as to what's coming from the higher self, right? Because that recognition of feeling regret, the regret of the self, looking back and going, you know, I shouldn't have done that, versus saying, I wish I didn't have to do that. This is a lot of that energy that we often experience that shows us how far we have come on our own energetic cycles. Because when we are operating from the state of the egoic emotion, we often carry a deep karmic burden, right? We carry that karmic burden because we look back and we wish that we could have done something differently in that moment. But when we look at something and say, I wish I had had another choice other than the one that I felt for, like, I wish that I wasn't in that circumstance wherein that was required to bring forth within me. That is usually the energetic connection that feels like it's speaking from the higher self, because that is the energy that feels regret around the circumstances that resulted in one having to make an energetic choice, right? Having the sense of doing something that felt like it was necessary, even if it was difficult. So we see even now, this is one of those days that can feel like this is what the Mars retrograde is bringing out right now, and it's gonna feel uncomfortable. It's frustrating because it's navigating unpleasantness. And this is the difference. It's either the unpleasantness of the self, looking at the past and having some notes for yourself, or it's the unpleasantness of situations that are requiring you to have to move with a not in the way that one desires to, but in the way that one feels that the higher self is calling you to, right? Like, this is a lot of that heavy work that we see right now. And there's a lot of this energetic unpacking that's happening right now across all of the frequencies in that modality, right? It's working through that. And it's heavy, right? Like, it's heavy, but it's necessary. And again, we've got that, but this is what we talk about as it relates to like healthy shadow work. Like, because that ability of facing something and looking at something, but feeling that valuation, this is what feels like it is restorational, right? Continuing to get clarification, center card for today's spread is, well, look, it's productive, right? This is what I mean. Sometimes this, like, retrogrades don't mean that the work stops. It just means that the work is different, right? It's the assessing of processes. It's the assessing of processes. And when you're navigating processes, there's a lot of introspection that often can arise in those moments. And so we see even now that a lot of that heaviness, moving with a lot of this conscientiousness, something that like you often like, and this is what we're seeing a lot right now, something that you might take for granted. Like we often have this in retrogrades, something that you don't even think twice about, something that feels like it's muscle memory. The minute something locks up, you suddenly like recognize, like you recognize or breaks. Like that's the moment that you recognize and you see a different way that you could potentially be doing something. So there's a lot of that assessment that we're seeing on the internal level right now, right? Particularly now, and it is having a different impact depending on where you find yourselves on the frequency cycles. Now, for masculine and feminine energy, deep within divine union, this is more of that same message that we were seeing in yesterday's read. Because you'll recall yesterday, bringing up like the airing of grievances. What is the beauty of being able to be in a partnership where you feel the safety and security to air an energetic grievance, right? Like you don't, like a healthy partnership is not one that you just sit there and you bite your tongue and you withhold and you withhold and you withhold until you know what I mean? No, because the ability to air grievances allows for something that could be detrimental to be energetically avoidable, right? Like working through that to a certain extent. A lot of that easement point, if you will. And so we see even now, these are the energies that are recognizing and identifying what those challenges are to be able to facilitate moving through them effectively in order to, again, don't get frustrated if you recognize or you find an obstacle during the retrograde period. Be appreciative of understanding what it is that you're energetically facing. So this is the energy that was working on getting a feel for it so that they can overcome the obstacle, right? When you're like, and you have to think of it like, you have to think of it a little bit like, again, because of that Sag full moon energy, new moon energy, right? Like, if a horse is going to like try to jump something, you got to you got to make sure you know how much speed you need. You got to see like what that work is going to be. So we see even now there's a lot of planning and work that's going into things right now for energy deep within divine union. And that's either the internal work of the self, recognizing how far you've come, having that sense and having some of that and some of that perception, right? Because this is the energy deep within divine union. If the counterpart has a different perception than you don't just push it aside and say, you don't know anything. This is the energy that says, I appreciate your perspective. Healthy partnership is one where we honor the sacredness of another's eyes because it's in their ability to give a quality or characteristic of a perception that we do not have that our own perception becomes enhanced. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, this is more of that same work that we recognized and identified was occurring in relationality to the environment through which an energetic partnership is creating, right? This is the energy that's experiencing and recognizing what they're facing. And for a lot of that energy, remembering that when we move deeper into partnership, when we create anything, when we move on a pathwork of purpose, we have to be prepared to experience the disappointment of energy surrounding that partnership. This is the energy that is recognizing and feeling the shape of the changes in the energy surrounding a partnership as they bring it into the tangible space. And that is why we see, and this isn't the energy saying, oh, I guess someone's not approving of this, so we'll just move away from it. This is the energy that either feels that sense of someone coming into that disapproval because of a place of concern, because this is the energy that says, yeah, I understand. I understand why you'd be concerned. There's been a lot of work here. Let me explain to you the changes that we've made. Right? It's the clarification. Or this is the energy that's saying, I feel like that's that person or that individual that doesn't desire to see us moving forward in this way. Right? But this is the energy that observes those changes, but doesn't change direction. And this is why even now, if there's energy that just recently fell into separation over matters of this nature, these are some deep wounds that are occurring here. Because these are wounds of someone observing another's ego that is making determination points, the ego that is potentially blocking moving into deeper integral connection, right? Because the egoic self is always worried about impressing those around the self, right? The egoic self, is more in that energetic space of not wanting to be oppositional, right? Because it's war, it's like trying to take the damage. So this is why we see that this is the energy in separation. If this is a situation or circumstance where after all of that work, trying to bring something into tangibility, someone's like the damage one was feeling to the egoic self and another person looking at something with distaste. This is why these closures are so fundamental. Because this is the energy that's looking towards another and saying your priorities are in the wrong place. While this is also what is forging a lot of these beautiful connections that we see right now for the energy that's been in separation longer and working through that healing journey. Because if this is the energy that's moving towards one another with trepidation, this isn't the trepidation that is articulated as it relates to a lack of caring. This is the trepidation that we see that is occurring in energy that holds their path work sacred. And as a result, they hold others' work as same. Next card in our 5-card spread, for next 2 cards in our 5-card spread for today, before we start getting clarification on these cards, we have here our 9 of Cups in its upright. You see this? And our Fool card in its reversal. Now, I have to say this. There may be some experiences right now that feel triggering. Look at this. This is what a difference intentionality makes. Something that feels similar to the past, but recognizing the difference of the intentionality behind it makes all the difference. Why do I say that here? Because look at this. This is the balancing point. We've got here the same work, right? The same work. Look at the positives here. The energy that moves the same way, but in different directions, that positivity point. With trepidation and care that is articulating in the appreciation of holding oneself sacred and being sacred towards another pathwork. At the same time, weighing and feeling the shadow of the past in relationality to wounds, constantly looking back on the past, but not looking back on the past for a desire to go back to it. This is the energy that holds the past in one hand, and they leave their other hand open for the possibility of the future. Because this is the energy that says, I hold the past because that is a part of my pathwork. That is sacred. I look at it because there's sacred work to be recognized in what has led me to this point. So we see even now, like a lot of that energy, this is the energy that like is looking and building into new partnerships with someone that has made peace with their past, right? And that doesn't mean that that's that aspiration of saying everything was great. I'm really glad that all happened. But it's the same conversation that we were seeing, and someone saying, I didn't expect to be here, but I'm glad to have found myself here. There's a finding that's occurring. While for masculine and feminine energy, and when we feel that finding ourselves here, it is the moment that we feel of rightness in relationality to appreciating what those experiences were and what they can bring forward towards ourselves going forward. So a lot of that appreciation that we see that's happening right now. While for masculine and feminine, and this is why I see even now, if these are separations that occurred as this was happening, as energy was moving deeper into partnership right now, because there's some very fundamental partnerships that are occurring right now. Energy that put a lot of work in since the eclipse season in the summer. Doing that work. This is why this is the energy that isn't moving something into a tangible space to hope in order to fix it. This is the energy that feels like they've fixed something enough that they want to bring it into deeper reality. So we see even now that a lot of that energy navigating the turbulence that they're experiencing as they do so. Some of it is the understanding of someone that may have seen what that work was and is expressing care because it is the care of someone knowing and doing what they feel is best for themselves. But that's why I see a lot of that nuance that's occurring here, because if someone does not recognize and identify that, holds on to something too tightly, it doesn't feel like someone that is bringing something forth because of a place of care, so much as they're trying to potentially move you in a different direction. While for a lot of this energy right now, deep within divine union, this is a lot of that, like, I want to say, like, there's a little, like, it feels more detail oriented right now. You know, it feels like there's I see energy deep within divine union almost saying to counterpart, am I being too picky here? And this is the energy going, well, again, is it picky or is it important? Right? Nothing is picky if the thing that you're picky about is important, right? So this is a lot of the energy that I see right now that is navigating how they feel by asking themselves, I know I'm being picky, but am I being picky because that's the ego self, or am I being picky because it's important, right? Because it says to me like there's a picky here that's important. Continuing to clarification between our Five of Pentacles in combination with our Judgment card in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Nine of Wands in its reversal. So for a lot of this energy that we're seeing right now, like this is more of that pickiness is what I'm seeing. There's more of this pickiness here. And I see even now that a lot of that work that we're effectively seeing, like there's a lot of this, I want to say, like the gift of the energy deep within divine union. It feels like the amplification in relationality to the perspective of counterpart that allows for a different point of view. The perspective of counterpart that allows for a level or degree of like, I want to say like openness here. Because this is the energy that articulates through those emotionalities, articulates through those experiences. And so I see even now, like that's what I meant with yesterday, feeling like a little bit of that like clearing of the air, if you will. Because this is the energy that clears the air, because often it is in the articulation of something that we land upon that point of clarity, right? And that is the type of energy that I see even now, like allows for that openness towards questions, right? This is the energy that looks towards one another and says, like, if something I'm saying or something I'm seeing here is off, by all means articulate what that is. Because this is the energy that looks towards the counterpart and says that our appreciation point is the ability of leaving space for possibility. There's it's interesting here because there's pickiness, but there's also a lot of adaptability. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, a lot of this work that we're seeing coming into divine union, this is amplified. This is why that energy is trying to keep an open mind in the process. Why? Because again, we see that ability of perceiving something, right? Energy that is potentially recognizing something, moving into a deeper partnership and feeling that any kind of turbulence is because someone's heart is in the right place, versus potentially navigating those situations and circumstances via wherein that pickiness is one of energetic disappointment or navigating something of that nature. This is why a lot of that observation here, this is the energy that kind of shrugs, right? This is the energy that says, like, trying to be conscientious, but also saying that there's not much that one can do, because when you're building upon that pathwork of purpose, it's more of that same amplification of recognizing and identifying that when you're moving on a pathwork of purpose, you have to be in that space of being ready to disappoint those, you navigate others' energetic disappointment in seeing you on that pathwork and say, like, I'm sorry if that's disappointing to you, but that may be you taking my pathwork too personally. Right? So we see even now, like, a lot of that work, this is the energy that feels that vitality as they move deeper into partnership, but it doesn't feel like it's tearing them apart. It feels like it's re-amplifying the importance and significance of the energetic connection, right? And this is why I see even now that if there's energy that fell into separation at this moment, it may be feeling like a fundamental closure of a cycle. Because that observation or recognizing or seeing someone that holds someone else's perception to a higher space than the energy that they were moving into partnership with, this is a lot of that amplification that we see that feels fundamental, because this is the energy that says to one another, it's not that we have to have the same perception all the time. It's that we hold one another's perceptions as sacred, right? Like that ability of saying, I don't need to feel, I don't need to share your perception. I just need to hold the sacredness of it. So we see even now that allows for that path work. This is why that energy says if you're holding the energy outside of partnership more sacred than the energy that you're moving into partnership with, and that's what led to a separation, this is why that energy may be saying you can have them. Like this is the energy going, you can have them, because this is the energy almost saying, I don't, like, if that's your choice, then by all means take it, right? While for masculine and feminine energy and separation that is working, moving towards one another right now, I just keep seeing at this time that these are the modalities wherein there's a lot of sacred unions that are coming together at this time, because they're being articulated and amplified by an openness, a clarity of intention, and a slowness that articulates the conscientiousness that one is putting forth towards one another. So again, there's a lot of pickiness here, but they're saying it's pickiness with purpose, right? Picky is okay if it's pickiness with purpose. Continuing to get clarification, it's judgment in its reversal with our 8 of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Cups in its reversal. This is having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Why are we seeing some of this emotionality coming forth right now towards masculine? Because we see even now that a lot of that, like this is more of that conversation that we were having in relationality to where the emotions spring forth from, right? It's not enough just to feel something. It's recognizing where the phone call's coming from. Like, where in the house is the phone call coming from? Because we see even now that for a lot of this energy of the masculine, that observation, I keep getting, there's a lot of masculine energy right now that is working on their healing journey by healing the egoic self. It's shield energy. When we talk about egoic self work, you have to think of it like refining your shield. When you're refining a shield, what do we talk about? The shield that is adaptable, right? It does what it needs to do, but it does not obstruct one's own view. When our egos are too heavy, we can't see anything beyond them, right? So this is a lot of that work that so that adaptability we see even now. This is a lot of the masculine isn't about removing emotions. I see the masculine being like, I don't need to just get rid of my emotions. That's dumb. My emotions are there for a reason. We've been given all of these things as gifts. It's not about getting rid of your emotions. It's having a healthy conversation with the emotions and saying, where are you coming from? Where do these spring forth from? Are you a good feel? Are you a good emotion, or are you a bad emotion? Because again, the emotions that come from the space that is demanding, that says, I want what I want when I want it, I want it exactly like that, that is limiting. When you are intrinsically focused on expecting something the way you expect it, you lose the possibility of the universe surprising you with what could actually be occurring. So we see even now that a lot of that adaptability that's occurring right now, particularly for masculine energy, it has a lot to do with the emotional space. And this is a masculine looking at the emotions and saying, you're acting like, when we look at the emotions and say you're being like, and this is feminine too, you're being a toddler. Right? Like the emotions that feel like they're being a toddler, the emotions that say, that's not the way I wanted it to be, right? But the emotions that come from the higher space says, I'm upset because it's important. I value it because it matters. The emotions are rising up not because it is petty, it is because it is important. So there's a lot of this, and this even now, this is why I see so much of the energy that's feeling a little bit of that distance and some of these new connections that are forming. But this isn't the distance of disassociation. This isn't the pathwork of someone saying, I make it my job not to care because I'm spiritually connected. What are you talking about? You can't be spiritually connected and say that you can't care about anything. That's crazy, right? So we see even now, this is the energy that says, I build into that context of recognizing and navigating the emotions, because when I'm able to converse with my emotions, I can discern whether the emotion is coming from something that is valuable and important, the higher self, or if it's coming from the egoic self. The part that just wants things the way that they want them and gets very energetically frustrated if things aren't moving in that way, in accordance with that. So we see even now, and so even here, that energy, that slowness that they may have been healing from, of someone showing a lack of interest, a lack of care, versus someone that is being trepidatious because they care tremendously. A lot of this that we see, this is a lot of this, the energy that's feeling triggered by the past, even as they move towards one another from a place of healing, because sometimes energy that's healed and energy that's not healed can look very similar. And this is the articulation as to that difference. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is a lot of that observation as it relates to the turbulence that you may be experiencing as you move deeper into connection. Because the key difference is, again, the difference between someone saying, I'm sorry if I was worried, I care about you, I want what's best for you, versus someone saying, I just want what's best for, like, I just know what's best for you. Right? Someone that's kind of trying to move someone off of pathwork versus someone that holds another's pathwork sacred, which is why they are conscientious. Same exact lesson occurring for the energy moving deeper into divine union. While for a lot of this, and this is why if there's energy falling into separation at this time, it's like the audacity is rising up, because it's feeling of someone who looks and prioritizes something, a perception outside of the partnership connection. While for a lot of this energy right now, deep within divine union, this is the energy. This is energy like, not sweating, it's a lot of back and forth here, because it's saying to me, it's a lot of this energy is frustrating, because some things like now require a very fine, like some things require like a fine chisel, and some things require a hammer right now. And that's the only thing that I keep getting with these messages is like, if you're having to like switch speeds a lot, like, it's the difference between like muscle memory and nuance. So it's like it's a lot of like it's a lot of finesse, adaptability, and switching modes, if you will, today, which can sometimes feel like it's like juggling, it's like a lot of moving parts. Continuing to get clarification between our 8 of Pentacles in combination with our 9 of Cups in its upright. One card to clarify, please. What, really? That's too many cards. Okay. All right. Speaking of which, we've got a bunch of cards here. So the way I'm gonna read through these all together, because I'm not gonna put them back, because I think that they're important. In fact, it's especially, I need to point out, because I literally said there are a lot of moving parts. Welcome to the moving parts. All right. Don't get overwhelmed today. Don't get overwhelmed, because like, this is kind of like, this is like one of those days that's either like going to like drive you nuts, or it's going to create a flow state, right? It's either going to really frustrate you or overwhelm you. But like, that's why you just kind of got to roll with it. Some days you have to be the room. Sometimes you have to change the energy in the room. Sometimes you have to be the room. So there's a little bit of like, there's a lot of this today is what I'm seeing, and particularly and especially in relationality to, like, there's an amplification here of choice that's coming through. Like, there's a lot of this work that we're seeing as it relates to, and I want to point this out, like, this is for energy deep within divine union right now. This is the recognition. This is like bringing someone like up to speed in relationality to one's own feelings. Like, there's a lot of unpacking that I'm seeing that's occurring here. And a lot of this is effectively, I want to describe it as the recognition in terms of how far one has come or how much one has changed, right? And that sense, or that space here, this is the beauty, like, this is the beauty of the energy deep within divine union, because this is a lot of that same refinement in relationality to recognizing and identifying, knowing someone to a certain degree, that like you can identify and articulate like what their own preference would be on something before even asking them, right? Like, this is a lot of that. Like, there's a lot of this like energetic intuition that I see that is occurring or springing forth right now for the energy deep within divine union. And a lot of that, like a lot of that work that we see right now, like this is beautiful because this is the amplification of seeing and understanding the facets of counterpart so effectively, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're seeing right now coming into divine union is amplified and articulated upon working through, like this is what I meant with the changing of priorities, if you will, that is occurring for so much of the energy coming into divine union right now. Because for a lot of that energy coming into divine union, feeling the enormity of how much one has changed as it relates to, I want to say, like when you look at something and suddenly you look, like when you're in partnership connection, and you suddenly look out in terms of something and say, that just seems like a lot of drama, unnecessary drama. It's in that moment that you recognize that it feels like it's drama because you're no longer within it, right? So I just keep seeing right now that there's some energy in this retrograde cycle that has recognized how far they've changed, because they're looking at something that they used to be invested in and they're just seeing it as a lot of drama. And when it feels like it's drama, it's because you're watching it play out before you, because you're not necessarily invested in it. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, recognizing that, feeling like they've stepped out of something, this is the energy that already amplifies and has that feeling of how much they're like how far they've changed coming into divine union, because they're almost looking at their past version of self in that way. While for a lot of this energy right now in separation, this is just new, like this is new connections. This is new. And this is the energy that like it I can see it even now, like the recognition of saying, oh my gosh, this looks a lot like something I experienced from the past, but a completely different way. This is the amplification of saying, I recognize the difference between what feels like it is disassociative versus what feels like it is conscientious and invested, right? And so even here, like a lot of that point and that's being recognized, continuing to get clarification here between our 9 of Cups in its upright in combination with our Fool card in its reversal. Got to bring these decks together again. And it fell out. You saw it. You saw it come. You saw it fly out, and it's in it. It's in its transverse. Today's a wacky day. We've got here our 8, and heavy on the 8s today. We've got here our 8 of Swords in its transverse. So this is the Mars retrograde, right? It's when you feel something, like when you're able to, like, I want to say, like there's an energetic neutrality that I see that is happening today. But a lot of that I keep getting the overarching difference has to do with the feeling of neutrality that articulates from a space of lack of care versus the feeling of energetic neutrality that is demarcated by a great deal of emotions, right? Like there's a lot of that emotionality here. And so, a lot of that even here, there's like a lot of consciousness or a lot of conscientious conversations in relationality. And I want to say this, like it says to me, a lot of emotion, but the ability today to have heavy conversations without feeling emotionally overwhelmed. Today's a good day for those type of conversations, because to a certain extent, that's like a bit of the gift of this Mars retrograde. Something that would usually like really get you going, right? You can kind of speak towards and navigate from a place of objectivity. And that objectivity isn't disassociative. It feels clear-headed, right? So I think that there's something really important to be articulated on that. It's not a lack of emotionality that's creating that. It is trying to find a way to articulate on something that is emotionally complicated. Continuing to get clarification between our 9 of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Knight of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our, it's complicated, with our Justice card in its reversal. So we've got here, man, this is we've got here Judgment card in its reversal and Justice card in its reversal. So this is what I mean about navigating nuance today. It's frustrating. But I see even now what's beautiful about this is there's a frustrating quality to something here that as long as you don't allow yourself to be frustrated, but try to articulate the words, trying to define nuance today is heavily, like, there's a lot of that. And like the thing about this, and this is what I mean, like, making, like, I want to stress this, making sure that you're having conversations, not just from a place of what the ego demands, but what the higher self is asking. Like, there's a lot of that, like, there's argumentation here, but there's also alignment, right? Like, on this we can agree. Like, like there's a lot of that type of energy. Like, on this we can agree kind of thing here. And so, one of the things that I see even now is, and this is having an impact across all of the frequencies, and I need to stress this is also why, if there are energies moving into separation right now, there is something incredibly, like, this is like done kind of energy, like done, because, like, this is the energy again. If there was so much work that was done between the eclipse cycle, like, if this was energy, like, invested work, investing to try to fix something between a counterpart up until the time that you bring it into tangible fruition, and the minute that others have something to say about it, someone moves away from it. This is why I see some energy just like immediately, like, closing something here and deciding that something is done, because that's the opposite. That's the only energy that's saying, doesn't seem like it's complicated at all. And I can hear someone say, like, no, it's complicated. Another person being like, it doesn't seem like it's complicated to me one bit. Seems very clear, right? So a lot of, like, the one thing I see today is a lot of clarity. a lot of clarity, but the ability to have a complicated, like a conversation about complications with a point of clarity, right? Continuing to get clarification between our Knight of Cups in its reversal, in combination with, oh my goodness, bear with me, in combination with this little knot of cards here, which, again, to be able to read forward to them, was the Page of Cups in its upright, the Four of Swords in its reversal, the Magician in its reversal, the Two of Pentacles in its reversal, and our Seven of Cups in its reversal, right? Can I get one card to clarify those? Clarification coming through right now with our King of Wands in its reversal. So again, like a lot of this energy today, it's, and this is the only thing I want to say in relationality to the different impact between this is having on masculine and feminine energy for today. Like masculine energy, again, very, like, it feels more technical, is what I'm seeing. As strange as that sounds, it feels more like the articulation of technicalities. And I see even now, like, a lot like that, like there's a lot of this, like there's a lot of this, it almost feels like, because I see masculine energy in some kind of, like, repairing context. So I see even now, like, navigating something via like, energetic technicality. Like, this is how masculine is sorting through their own emotions on something. Like, what's effectively happening here is this is the masculine energy that is recognizing, like, this is harder for masculine, because masculine wants to find a simple solution to complicated situations. Feminine is approaching something recognizing that there's nothing that's simple. Everything is complicated if you look at it close enough. This is how these energies are harmonizing today. But the funny thing is they're in the same space, but they're coming at it from different approaches, which is why for the energy deep within divine union, this feels like a gift, because this is the energy that says, I don't see the things the way you do, but I appreciate your perception. Like I appreciate your perspective, right? Because that is what creates the comprehensive whole. It's like the Voltron. You put them together, and what do you got? While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, this is the energy. This is like the universal shrug that I see some of this energy's having in relationality to navigating. Like if you're moving with intentionality towards someone and you're prioritizing that connection, even if there's turbulence, like that's that moment that you kind of step back and see it. You don't feel like you're a part of it because you suddenly realize and already recognize that you're already separate from it. Like this is the energy saying, like, it's not about what I desire. This is already, like, I see a lot of energy saying it's already happened. Like the energy's like, this is energy. Someone saying, I don't know about this. This is the energy coming into divine union being like, well, it's not about, it doesn't matter what you feel. It's already happened, because this is the energy saying, I'm not asking for your permission. I'm telling you what is occurring, right? Like, but this is the energy that feels fortified in that because they get it, right? When you get it, you get it. Like when you get it, you're like, I find myself here too, while for a lot of this, and that's why I see even now, that's why if there are separations that are occurring right now, it feels so fundamental, because it's looking at someone. I see someone looking and being like, you're never going to get it, are you? You're never going to get it. You're never going to get it. Not like you're never going to get it, like you're never going to acquire it, like you're never going to understand, right? Like that's what's so difficult about this is the energy. That's why I see some of this energy saying, like, especially if this was all repair work up until this time, and in that modality, someone's allowing their ego to move them in the direction oppositional to their purpose. I see even now that's the energy going, I'm like energy turning away from someone and not looking back. While for a lot of this energy right now in separation, I got to say this energy that may have potentially been in separation, since like the eclipse cycle, I just see even now like a massive amount of healing that's coming through, because this is the observation of feeling something similar to the past, but not having the shadow of the past overshadow it, recognizing the difference between the trepidation of someone that does not care versus the energy of someone that cares tremendously, which is why they're being careful. Continuing to get clarification between this big ball of energetic cards here and our 8 of Swords in its transverse. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Wands in its upright. I need to stress this. Look at these cards today. Masculine and feminine are in alignment today, but they're experiencing things from oppositional perspectives. They are in absolutely same alignment. Look, see this? Bump, bump. This is not necessarily a bad thing, okay? This is different perspectives. You'll remember what was the card that we ended the reading on yesterday? The Hanged Man in its reversal, right? So again, this is a lot of that work. The energy right now is very much, again, I hear the energy going, on this we can agree, right? This is the energy going, on this we can agree. Because the alignment that's occurring here, alignment doesn't mean that you are in agreement at every single moment. It's recognizing and identifying on what you can agree. And that is the basis that you can kind of build forth upon. So there's a lot of foundational work that we see that is happening in this modality right now. It's problematic because even in, there's a little on this we can agree, or I'm hearing we'll have to agree to disagree, right? It's a lot of that type of energy today. The ability to, and why do we have those moments? We have those moments with someone when we recognize that we are butting up against something within them that is integral, right? Often when we have healthy argumentation, healthy conversation, if we reach a point where we have a perception on something that feels like it is fundamentally different, it doesn't require us to change that, right? It's the ability of saying we can be looking at the same thing, but have different perspectives on it, right? That ability of kind of being able to cut through the nuance, to recognize the harmony within those. A massive opportunity today, especially with that Mars in its retrograde, allowing for a lot of clear-headedness in relationality to having difficult conversations. For a lot of energy right now in separation, this is why I see even now beautiful counterpart energies that are coming together. Beautiful counterpart energies that are coming together, but it's requiring, look at this is the work that it's requiring. Feminine, having a lot of confidence, having a lot of courage today, right? It's like working through that energetic shadow. Masculine, being very vulnerable, having that feeling of the vulnerability that feels like it is on display to a certain extent, because this is the masculine. I told you, doing that work in healing the egoic shield, right? So one feels like they're taking their armor off and the other one feels like they're putting their armor on to be able to meet one another, right? Now, masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, this is the different perspectives as it relates to the turbulence, right? This could be the argumentation point in relationality to what one is seeing outside of partnership and one's own perspective of it. But again, is this the energy saying maybe we should pause? No, this is the energy saying we may perceive what is happening in different ways, but on this we can agree. It doesn't really matter, right? And this is why I said even now, if this is energy that's separating at this time, why these separations feel so fundamental, because this is potentially someone coming into separation and saying, I'm separating because that person's priorities are completely out of whack with mine, right? Well, for a lot of this energy right now that is deep within divine union, a lot of this energy that we're seeing right now, deep within divine union, this is the energy. This is like looking at your, like, this is a little bit like looking at your counterpart and being like, you're so weird, I love you. This is the energy that navigates another's perception on something. But again, when you see the idiosyncrasies of the counterpart, when you see places that they're not in alignment to you, this is the energy that just loves each other more in the process, right? Because even here, like this, you see this, like this is the energy looking at something from opposite perspectives. And not like shunning each other for it, just like almost like, again, like adoring one another in that modality. You know, I love your opinion. I might not agree with your opinion, but I love hearing your opinion. You're completely wrong. Like, it's kind of energy being like, you're completely wrong, but I love you, right? Like, which is like, you know, it's like that beautiful harmony when you feel very oppositional to someone, but at the same time, you also adore them for that, right? Continuing to get clarification between our Justice card in its reversal in combination with our King of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. There's that King of Pentacles. A lot of switching gears today. Just be ready for it. It's a lot of switching gears. It's a lot of switching speeds. You know, just be intentional today. And recognize what feels like it's productive. I'm telling you even now, this weekend, there may be a lot of new partnerships that are growing. Like, I see seeds being planted this weekend. Like, these are hesitant seeds, but they're hesitant because they're precious. You know, like I see someone that like this is there's a lot of preciousness in a lot of these connections. For both masculine and feminine. And that observation of, again, the being able to navigate the difference between someone that doesn't care, so they don't move very effectively, or someone that cares a great deal, so they move very slowly, is very much at play in a lot of those new connections, which is why I see if these are separations that are occurring at this time after all of that preparation. I keep seeing that this is why something right now is feeling like, if there are separations that are happening right now, they feel fundamental, because it's someone saying, it's not just the fact that we tried to fix something, it's that we did fix it and your priorities did not allow us to move it into a space of tangibility. Like, this is the energy saying your priorities are out of whack, because if you're worried about other people's opinions, you're never going to be in a healthy partnership, because you can never move into healthy partnership without someone having an opinion upon it that might not be conducive to the partnership coming together, right? I just see a lot of that energy saying, I'm not like that. That's why I see the energy saying, you can have them. Like, I see the energy going, you can have them. Like, like that's what's so fundamental here. While for a lot of this energy deep within divine union, this is more of that same energy that says, I may not agree with you, but I love you. Right? Like, that's the energy going. You're so, like, this is literally, I see energy deep within divine union being like, you're so wrong. Like, you're so wrong. Like, you could not be more wrong. I mean, it's hard. Like, I love you. It's hard to love. I can see a lot of this like playfulness of someone being like, I love you. It's just, it's really painful to be in a relationship with being like loving someone that's so wrong, right? Because that's the energy that like adores the perception, even if the perception is oppositional, right? So that's a lot of that. Continuing to clarification between our King of Wands and its reversal, or Queen of Wands, or this could be tea spilling. Someone being like, that's so wrong. Like, I can't believe you said that. That's so wrong. Because this is the energy. This is more of that energy from yesterday that's still like clearing the air, which is something like that. How do we clear the air? I see a lot of energy being like, I could, but I won't. I could, but I won't. Like, it's a lot of that type of thing. Continuing to get clarification between our King of Wands and its upright in combination with our Queen of Wands in its, King of Wands and its reversal in combination with our Queen of Wands and its upright. There it is. We got, like, this is what I meant about that clearing of the air to a certain extent, right? We saw this card. If this card looks like it's familiar, we've got the Devil card and it's upright today. Yesterday it was in its reversal. Why? Because again, what happens, like yesterday was more of the energy of clearing the air. Why were we clearing the air? We were clearing the air to air the energetic grievance, right? Like, we clear the air to air the energetic grievance. And when we figure out what the energetic grievance is, it's recognizing the difference between what feels like it's coming from the egoic self versus what feels like it's coming from the higher self, right? So this is even a lot of that energy that is self-aware, right? And that's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of conversations that says, like, when we have that sense of self-awareness, we don't look at something that isn't for us and say like, oh no, never. We say, I understand the inclination. I understand where that springs forth from, right? I don't act in accordance to it, but that recognition or that understanding, right? This is how we see so much of that alignment, because there's a lot of that observation that we are recognizing in relationality. Like, the energy deep within divine union is aware of self enough that they don't hide from those shadows of the self. They confront them, right? You work in those spaces of frustration. You work in those spaces of fear. You work in those places of one's more base inclinations, right? And you do so to be able to facilitate what feels like it is energetically helpful versus what feels like it's moving things in the wrong direction, right? So we see even now, like, a lot of that work navigating that is the observation of where one is versus where another is. There may be a lot of that articulation today. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, this is more of that same refinement in relationality to experiencing the energetic turbulence that you may be experiencing as you come into divine union. And this could be the energy having oppositional opinions as to the reasons why, right? This could be even some argumentation about whether one person sees something and says their heart's in the right place. Another person being like, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's the case. But this is the energy that says, regardless, we are in alignment. It's not changing our directionality, right? This is the energy that perceives forward and moves deeper into divine union in the process. Because often, again, what is this message that we see here? Like, when we're creating something for ourselves, when we're building into those healthy partnerships, like the intentionality is everything. Recognizing that those spaces or places where another is like experiencing those egoic wounds that may form as you're moving into divine union, like, this is the energy that is present of it. They're mindful to it, but it doesn't move them out of alignment. It just, they're observant, like they're witnessing it from a place of being outside, away from it, right? Like this is the energy that says like, I'm not, I like, it's like, this is why I keep saying the energy saying it's already happened, because this is the energy articulating someone saying, I'm telling you, not because we're planning on it. It's like, these are the things that are happening because it's already occurred, right? While for a lot of this energy right now in separation, this is the energy healing from the past. This is the energy healing from the past and recognizing, I keep seeing it. Remember, you see what we see here? Look at these combinations of energies here. This in combination with this. The difference between energies that move towards each other conscientiously and carefully because of the sacredness of what they're trying to create within one another, versus healing at the same time from the wounds of the past of someone moving with a level or degree of slowness that is articulated upon a lack of care, right? Articulated upon a lack of concern, right? So we see even now that a lot of that energy, it's healing in a big way, but it feels difficult because this is the energy that recognizes that when we heal the wounds of trust, it feels like we're doing the wrong thing, because the wound of trust requires us to do the same thing that hurt us in order to understand that that is not always what we can expect in those situations with energy that is conscientious and in alignment with us. Final card for today's spread between our Knight of Pentacles in combination with our Devil card, and it's upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Seven of Swords in its reversal. So this is, it's big retrograde energy. You know, it's big it's like double retrograde. Like, it's like, this is the combination of force that I talked about when we started, when we were describing the combination of like the Mercury retrograde and then Mars decided to go into retrograde. So it's literally, it's like it feels like almost, it's like the piano that crashes to the ground. And then, just to make sure the piano's not getting up, and like an anvil falls on the piano. You know what I mean? Like it feels excessive. Like it feels energetically excessive today. But like a lot of that work, you know, like it's like, I want to say like it's the amplification and recognition of how much, like how far one has come. Because I see even now, like even in the midst of a lot of these, like this energetic density, I see like, I almost feel like the energy being like, I have to go to work. Like this is the energy being like it's not changing one's own, it's not changing one's own intentionality. Because again, when you're working on pathwork of purpose, when you're building on pathwork of purpose, it doesn't really matter what's happening around you. Right? It doesn't really matter what's happening around you, because when you're feeling that intentionality, it's not about where you're going. It's just a question of what it's going to take to get there. Right? So it's like, I see even now, like a little bit of this energy, and it's having, and so that's what's so difficult for the energy in separation right now. Because I see even now, like I can see a lot of this energy that has that feeling of wanting to give up before they even begin. Today, don't do that. Listen to me. You're not allowed to cancel plans today. You know, like I see a lot of this energy being like, what's the point? Don't you dare do that today. Like, don't like, and I want to say this because we've been seeing a little bit of this crabbiness like coming through right now, like in the collective, like working towards one's own intentionality. You know, don't assume, like, do not assume, never, like, it's hard during these retrograde periods because the ability of the past and saying it's just going to be like it always is. The retrograde wants to say to us, what if it won't this time? Give the universe the opportunity to surprise you, right? Because even here we see that a lot of that energy working through something, like you're not, it will not be the way it always was, because you are not the person that you always were. And as long as you are changing, you cannot predicate the outcome that you will receive, even if you feel like you are repeating a process. And for a lot of the energy coming into divine union, that observational point, like I feel like there's a lot of energy right now feeling disoriented because they're looking at something that they were heavily invested in, but they're looking at it from the outside in now. That's what I mean about some of this energy, articulating to others how invested they are in something. And if that's the energy that's coming through with point of argumentation or concern, this is the energy saying, I appreciate how you feel, but it doesn't necessarily change the direction, because it's like, this is the energy that says, I've already changed, right? This is the energy that's saying, I'm not telling you that I'm about to perform a change. This is the energy saying, I'm telling you that a change has occurred, right? This is like, I'd be curious about where the Scorpio placements are today. While for a lot of this energy deep within divine union, this is the energy that I keep hearing, whatever it takes is all it takes. Some days you got it. Some days you got to play all the keys. Like some days, like some days you have to use some days you have to use every tool in the toolbox. So it's a little bit of that type of energy today. It's like, all right, let's get all the tools out, right? Bottom of the deck on this is off. So we've got, this is more of that retrograde. Again, this is the piano with the anvil on top of it. Because this is our five of swords. So, again, don't assume if something feels similar to the past that the same thing is occurring, because your ability to changes everything. You're not going to go through the same energetic cycle if you're not the same person you were the last time something occurred. Remember, there is like I see some energy going, I like, it's not going to be any different than it was before. Are you the same person that you were before? Because you're right. If you're the same person you were before, the same thing will probably happen. But if you've recognized how far you've come, if you're holding that space sacred, don't be afraid to make the same choice if you knew it was the right one to begin with. Because that a space of not allowing the past to overshadow your own intentionality, you give the universe the opportunity to say to you, and this is what would have occurred in different circumstances. And this is what would have occurred with better energy around you. And this is what would occur if you were with someone that shared the same intentionality as you. And this is what would have occurred if you were with someone that you could have truly trusted. So that amplification of stepping off into what feels like the thing that harmed us sometimes will heal us, because we say to the universe, show me the difference between what is within my power to change versus something that was outside of my power that I received. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who attended our recent class on the Chariot card. Our next class will be held on Wednesday, December 18th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our studies into the tarot with a focus on the Strength card. If you would like to become a part of our tarot class program, all you need to do is head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Your paid subscription to my Substack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. You'll also have access to the full library of Tarot Church classes. That is over 8 hours worth of material that is at your fingertips whenever you're ready to receive it. It is not necessary to catch up. I'll be giving a recap in each and every class on what we've studied thus far. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we have studied or anything that we are actively learning. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, you will also receive a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, wherein I will assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes and your personal practice to the best of your advantage going forward to reach your tarot goals. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's certainly something there for everyone. So I want to thank you so much if you're just joining us there for the first time, and I look forward to seeing you at our next class. And if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, make sure that you head over to our subscriber-only Discord channel that is a part of your benefits as a TikTok subscriber. There in the perks section, you will find a special coupon code that will give you an additional discount to that Substack subscription. Even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings, services. I post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events, as well as my online live schedule. You'll also be notified as to our giveaway winners. And speaking of giveaway winners, we will be announcing the winner of our November giveaway this week. So make sure that you're following me over on Substack to find out if you have won. Finally, I want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are classes focused for my clients that are seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason. Those classes can be focused on whatever area of personal growth or spiritual development you are most invested in learning more about. They can be purchased on an individual level or as a package series that is 4 45-minute classes, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my clients that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again on Monday.